it's fine.
Start. Mr. King, if you'll lead us in prayer, choose that and the pledge.
First of all, in heaven, we come to you this hour, that we ask you that you help us, direct us, and guide us, and let us know what we do. This we ask in the Son of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business, we need to, the executive committee, I guess that's me.
Yeah, ready to roll.
All right, Randy Rentz,
Okay.
Judith Ann McKee. Here. Melinda Ballard. Here. Aaron Glass.
Here.
Maria Bass. Here. Gary Capsule. James King.
Executive committee, sales taxes were down in June from the year before, which is a first for this, well, this is the first month of the fiscal year, so hopefully we'll get back on the plus side. Although they were down in July of last year too, June and July of last year. So, but everything was good. Sales taxes have been been going fine this year, and hopefully they'll pick up. All the checks seem to be in order. Everything's good. We need to approve the minutes.
Approved June 9th, 22 meeting minutes and June 29 personnel committee meeting minutes.
Second motion.
Motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Seconded. All in favor? Okay. Next, we need to recognize our employee of the month, who is Johnny Ruddle.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Julie Freeman here representing Taylor & Sons Insurance and Financial Services, and get to brag on one of your very own. And this is one of my, y'all heard me say this, but it's genuine. One of the favorite things I get to do is partner with school districts to recognize employees. So let me tell you a little bit about Johnny. What's been told, what they told me about her. Johnny is so wonderful with the students she works with. She gets results with her speech therapy, and in so doing, she can open a child's world in a way that they may not have been able to see before. The child may have been completely nonverbal at one time, and with her patience and skills, they begin communicating in small ways. She's providing more than communication skills. She's helping your self-confidence and self-esteem and personal worth and growth in leaps and bounds. She's the hardest worker you'll ever come across. She's always available for work-related questions and advice, and if she doesn't know the answer, she will find out. She lives to serve the kids and has a genuine care for the kids that is hard to come by. She will fight for them to give them access to the best care and school life possible. She never stops working and always goes above and beyond for the kids. She truly has the best heart and will always put the kids first. So your July 2022 Caldwell Parish School Employee of the Month is Johnette Ruddle for her dedication and commitment to our community, our schools, and our children. Proudly sponsored by Taylor & Sons Insurance Financial Services. I present to you your July 2022 Employee of the Month. And Johnette.
I've never said all that, thank you.
How many years you worked for us, John?
27 overall, and I think, I was trying to think on the way here, 18, 19 in Caldwell's.
That's awesome. I don't hardly recognize you, real close.
I know, she's in scrubs on top of my head, and I'm in scrubs.
Do that one more time, I'll snap a picture.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Miss Mary.
She worked with one of my boys, Lander,
Yep, I
from
can speak from personal experience.
before he
She's
started school.
amazing.
Oh, yeah. And you never know it now.
Well, now I'm getting kids of my kids. And I'm maybe soon getting a grandkid. I'll be around a minute. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
it.
Bye, y'all. Bye, Jason.
Thank y'all again.
We gotta keep running.
I make a motion that we amend the agenda to add items, what is it? E, F, and G?
E, and F.
E, G, and F, E, G, and H, whichever one they to add.
All in favor? So let's go to E. We're gonna need a motion to approve the administration pay for assistant business manager as the personnel committee met and recommended.
Yeah, we met and recommend David, gave information, justification, validation, and the logic and reason behind it. And, at this time, we feel that that's something we recommend to the board for any discussions. I don't know if David is on now, if he
Yeah,
can
David, you wanna?
reiterate it, we can,
Talk a little bit.
otherwise we can just.
Yeah, item E, whenever you look at specifically Carl in this role, and look at how the position has really developed over the years. Originally, it probably was very equitable on pay, being at 1,200 piece scale. And over the years, especially the last 2 or 3 years that I've been there, looking at how much Carla does, is way more than just what it originally entailed. She does quite a bit with payroll, and specifically is taking on quite a bit of job duties in that. And it's stuff that probably I should not be touching just because of how much stuff I can do in the general ledger. It would almost be kind of like I'll be able to cover up some of my, if I want to do something fake or illegal. So Carla's the backstop on control and our payroll responsibilities. And I mean, she's been doing this quite, for probably the last 2 years. I don't know specifically before that, but I think it's just one thing that needs to be addressed. And then when we were hiring for the new payroll clerk, if we hired a payroll clerk that had a college degree, which we did not do, but had we done that, she would have been on the exact same scale as Carla. And there's a whole lot more responsibility in Carla's job than there is for the payroll clerks. So, we're looking at this as far as making kind of a correction to the payroll scale in that position. And the proposed change I have outlined there in red, and the funding source, I'm kind of leaving that up to y'all. If y'all do approve it, to whether, the first
Right here, okay.
recommendation would be, the first item would be general fund, but subject to moving to the sales tax fund.
It's toward the back, because
You
we
don't
can
have
thumb
self-
them up.
David,
Depending on
what,
how the general fund is doing,
Look at the big letter E.
no, what did he recommend in the meeting?
page 1 of 4.
No, what fund did he recommend?
It ends up with an 8,500.
No, I'm saying, what category he recommended? it come
Which
from?
fund did you recommend
Was
is
it,
when we met?
was it general fund or sales tax?
I would prefer, obviously, for the general fund to take, but if general fund is in a bad spot in a specific year, then I would like the option of being able to pull it out and sell that. Unless the board did not like that idea at all, and we just keep it in the general fund.
Well, I think if he did that, it'll be fine as long as he let the board know that he was going from one fund to the other. So if he's gonna do general fund this year, and he had to do it sales tax next year, as long as the board was notified he's coming from one fund or the other, is the way I would like to put it, if it's approved.
But you would rather start out in the general fund or start out in the sales tax? Just go ahead and do the sales tax.
I think
I'd
it's
rather
sales
start
tax.
out in the general fund.
Okay.
But then have the option to move.
Right.
Would have the option.
Yeah, as long as it's brought before the board.
That was, yeah.
So when the sales tax was wrote up in the beginning, does it say that we can take
Yes.
that money and use it for raises?
What exactly does it say, David?
General fund, but subject to being moved by the business manager to the sales tax fund, depending on the status of the general fund.
And that's the only
And,
reason,
and the way that the sales tax was written, this is okay because how was it written?
The sales tax on both propositions, it just says to be used for salaries. There is no stipulation,
yeah, it was just strictly for salary.
and it's all subject to the board approval on how to spend that money.
The other thing he has that's
Similar.
there,
And
this is
similar to
all
how-
the additional duties that she has accumulated.
I just want to see the sheet that says where her money's at.
It says E at the bottom.
Yeah.
Did you find it? Okay. So the
In
proposed
red.
change is in red at the top. It's 12/9 of teacher pay scale and moving it to 12/9 of teacher pay scale with the 8,500 admin pay.
The 8,500 goes to your pay. Is that what you want? You sure?
All right, do we have a motion to approve this?
Is there enough money in there for, Dana, is that enough money? Make a payment on Dana's truck.
I'll make a motion.
I'll say.
All in favor?
Randy, with the stipulation that if whatever fund is in the change fund, just notify the board that it's, so we'll be able to keep track
Right.
of what's going on.
We gotta approve any changes for sales tax money. All right, now we go to G. Well, we just did it.
No, you skipped F.
Well, we were
Uh,
trying
not
to,
yet.
we're trying to do all of David's before he gets on the plane. G.
And that'll
Okay,
be,
item G.
Yeah.
State gave a $1,500 pay raise
What page?
to all certified
Should have a G at the
employees,
bottom.
$750 to non-certified employees. That's on the general fund side. Typically, the board has always mirrored on the sales tax 10%, matching the MFP amount. So what we're proposing is to upgrade the sales tax side by $150 to mirror the $1,500 that's on the MFP side / general fund. And in doing so, that would increase the monthly sales tax by $48,000 on how much would be used during the year. And that would be $48,000 less. That would be at the 13%. Typically, I mean, last 2 years, sales taxes have gone up, so that's not been a problem. But that would be in keeping with how the board has handled state pay raises in the past. So if the state approves their side, and then we're left on the sales tax side to approve ours, then we wish to continue doing that. It's up to the board on that as well. And that's on page G, page 1 of 2, and then the salary scale is on the second page. Just not labeled, but anyway, it's pretty obvious that that's the salary scale. And the salary schedule does have 150 added in there already. So if you look at the first page, or I'm sorry, page 2, the first column, that's funding source 35,955, and with the $150 that we're making in sales tax, $3,596. And that's done across all the columns and down all the road.
I make a motion that we accept David's recommendation.
all in favor?
Where's he going?
Alaska.
All right, now the financial update.
Okay, item H, there's 3 pages to it, and, all the grants are closed out after July 12th. I think that's a record closing, so that's a lot of effort on, Laura Rockmore's part, Janice Martinez's part, and Carla. And all 3 of them hugely helped me get to where I am on being able to produce this item H thing. Item H, page 1 of 3 shows all the funds. General fund has a decrease of $105,000 for the year. That is with a $200,000 transfer from maintenance fund, and that $200,000 is transferred in order to keep total expenditures at 70% spent on construction. And we get the $200,000 over on the general fund side, it would be favoring on the 70%. I don't know what we're gonna do in the future on that. Obviously, we've not transferred $200,000 every year from maintenance fund. But I'm gonna leave that to next year to figure that out. Medicaid had a $103,000 increase. That was due to, we got 2 payments where the state caught up on 2 years worth of billings. And each one is about $100,000. So the first $100,000 brought us back to even. Second $100,000 brought us above, quite a bit. And then CDF, Career Development Fund, had an increase of $62,000. And you see the fund balances, at the beginning of the year, and at the end of the year. So, general fund one itself is quite healthy at $7,050,000. And then looking at the other fund, you have sales tax, and that's ended the year with $322,000 fund balance. Lunch fund, very strong, $308,000, and that was without a $200,000 transfer that we typically have done in past years. We didn't do it this year because of how the general fund was short on cash in that area, and general and sales tax was up. We reimbursed fairly together. And then maintenance fund, again, we had a $200,000 hit, and then the other funds were pretty much even. And then there's all the federal grants and state grants evened out as they're supposed to. And then the next 2 pages has a summary, just end of year recap. It goes into a little bit more detail and talks a little bit about next year. So that's all I got.
I'm jealous.
That's good.
Alaska's gonna be so cool.
Okay, we need to move to item D, huh?
Thank you, David. Is that it? Is that all for you?
That's all I got.
All right, well, we'll let you get back to your, waiting on your
All
flight.
right.
Safe trip. Have a good trip.
Have fun.
It was being here. I'll tell you later.
Straighten that hair up.
I was gonna say it. We didn't hear you.
Goodness, okay.
Yeah, hey, Brandon, the personnel committee did meet. We went over a lot of policies, but I just want to specifically hone in on the employee dress code, which we went through a lot of consideration. We had good attendance from principals, other individuals that are part of the school system. I think some of it is, it's kind of difficult because you're looking at, maybe, taking somebody's, liberty away from them versus, trying to mirror the same, policy that we have for the students. So we did look at it. I think we did a pretty good job on it. There were a lot of changes. Nick, and I'm gonna let you chime in because it's a lot of this stuff, the social media policy, I think we're still looking at that, right? Which one?
I went through this, we don't have a social media policy. So we were like, we've gotta have one. So the one that you have, is that where we wanna start with policies?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, cause I think she put them in order. Do you wanna go in the order that we have to make sure we don't miss them? Or do you wanna go? in
Yeah,
order?
that'll be fine, yeah, but on the social media one, is that the one that you sent me from, I don't wanna approve that tonight, because I wanna, yeah.
I'll show you the differences. I took the one from Washita Parish and added in something to the one that we already had that would give it a little more clarity. And so if y'all want to do it, my thought is it's July. We need to go ahead because we won't meet again before school starts. And so even if we don't have, if you're not object to anything in the policy or think there needs to be something more, we could always come back and revisit it. I just hate to start the school year off with nothing in place.
Well,
So.
I guess my only issue is we've been doing it without it. I don't wanna rush into this because, again, you're looking at, somebody going on a trip and if they post a photo, I don't wanna take that away from, they got a beer can in their hand or something. I don't think that's, I guess American or whatever. So I wanna look at that one to be specific because, again, those teachers, when they're not working employees, they have a right to do certain things, on their own. And I just don't want to be in a rush to take that away because the policy that we looked at was, to me, was too rigid. It was.
So the policy that we started with was from Rapides Parish, and it was more broad than the policy that John Guy sent me from Washita was a little bit more defined. I actually liked the one that was a little more broad because it didn't get into it. That's the one that y'all got. Did y'all look over your packet that Kaylee sent? Did anybody have a chance to read through it?
I didn't get one.
She mailed out.
I don't guess I need it.
She mailed out the packets before she left on vacation. I gave them to which day that was. It should have come in big envelopes. You got yours? Okay. So, I mean, basically, it just says they have the right to use social media as a medium of self-expression off campus and on their personal time. We have had issues with teachers on their social media during the school day, and I feel quite a few calls about so-and-so supposed to be teaching my child, yet she's on social media. But sometimes you look like you're active and you may be conferencing with a parent or something, so I'm not trying to go in and say, but we expect that you are teaching when you're supposed to be teaching. It says a little bit there, as role models, you're responsible for your conduct even when you're not performing your job duty. Employees are held to the same professional standards in their use of social media and electronic communications as they are for public content or conduct. Employees remain subject to applicable state and federal laws. Let's see here, if you're communicating with personal or private matters, if an employee's use of social media interferes with the employee's effectiveness or ability to effectively perform his or her job duties, the employee shall be subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination of employment. So the guidelines here basically are, number one, we trust and expect employees to exercise personal responsibility and professionalism whenever they use it. Two, this is a big one, only employees officially designated by the superintendent may use social media to speak on behalf of the school board. And so what we've not had in the past is, or what we have had in the past is, the cheer sponsor comes and she creates a page, the dance takes a page, and the basketball, everybody's got these pages, and the principal may not even know that they exist. And so we now have, Merrick and Michael worked on a form, and that's on the back of this, that is the request so that you cannot create a page on behalf of your school unless you have permission. And so that was something that we definitely needed, so that we know what's out there and we are at least following that page and knowing what's going on with it.
One
Yes.
question on that.
Yeah.
All right. Recently, if you're on social media at all, you've seen that a couple of teachers have put on that we need from job opening such and such a student.
Mhm.
All right, is that gonna be something that's not gonna be allowed, or?
No, that's fine. I don't have, I mean, that's
It's
no, does not say
usually
you
coming
can't.
from us.
Do what?
It's usually coming from the board or
Okay.
somebody that's posted that, so it's
Yeah.
not coming from an individual. It's
But there
actually
are
coming
some
from us.
individuals,
Are
yeah,
they?
I know
Are
exactly
they?
what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually reached out to this person and I said, hey, do you know anybody who wants to come?
Well, I
And
understand.
afterwards, he told me, he said, I just put a post up and I didn't even think about that.
Well, I understand, but
Yeah.
as it reads.
You're
you know,
right, yeah.
That would be
So,
something that they shouldn't be doing.
Which is why I'm saying, Randy,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't think this is
if
ready
ready
to
it's
approve it.
representing
Yeah, I don't think it's ready
the
to
parish.
okay,
And, you know, being on this committee from day one since '93, again, to rush into it
okay,
I agree.
without having, you know, everything that needs to be there, because again, I want the superintendent to be able to, you know, execute a policy that's gonna be fair. But at the same time, I want the employee to have the same opportunity on their side. And the question that you just asked, I don't see a problem with an employee sharing the job description. But if it's not there and they do it, it's a violation. So I just think if we took, maybe, even if you wanna meet next week, Melinda, that's fine. We can do it. And if we need to have an emergency meeting before school starts, which is not a problem, to get this policy done, but to accept it tonight, I think would be disingenuous.
do we, while we've got the rest of the board here, do we want to discuss any of the other things that we?
Yeah, I think
know?
we can approve,
No, do we want to discuss the other items
Well,
on
you go
this?
ahead,
Okay, so we know we've got some issues with two, we wanna make sure. Number three, employees shall be responsible for making sure that their online activities do not interfere with their ability to fulfill their job requirements or their commitments to their supervisors, co-workers, students, and parents. It's pretty generic, but there have been things brought to my attention that you're like, you know, it's hard if you post things
Yeah, well-
that are, I'm passed out at the beach with some beer bottles and stuff, and I'm teaching your kids. So, I mean, it just,
right.
we've had Snapchats and TikToks and things that have been out there that, are not student friendly. And because we had no policy in place, all we could really do was have conversations, but there was no teeth in the conversations.
There's one particular I'm concerned with, and I've seen this post in various places about religion. I think that needs to be totally disallowed.
posting anything about religion?
Yeah, when you teach prayer back in school. You know, such things as this. We don't need to deal with that, not in the public school system.
Well, are you talking about from an employee, or you talking
The
about?
employee,
Well, see, and that's what I'm talking
That's
about.
right.
You know, at what point does an employee stop from being a human and expressing, you know, what they feel, which is their Christianity, whatever. And that's why I said I think we need to look. I'm not discrediting what you're saying. I just think we need to look at it before, you know, it's approved, because it. And I think Nick and I, the other issue we had is somebody post and say that I don't like Nick and McCann, and I don't like James King, and another employee come and clicks like. Is that suggested? Is it indirectly agreeing with the person? So when you look at that and you're saying that this person is in violation of the policy, are they in violation if they click like? Are you taking away their expression for being able to like? So those are the things that we try to look at when we dealt with the policy, which the other policy was kind of brisk and bold, but I think we can find something that'll be a happy medium.
You don't, but there again, another reason we need to really look at this.
Right.
Because really 3, you know, if you look at 3, that's 1 in a nutshell. You know? So this is something that I don't believe we're gonna settle tonight. We'll be here all night. So I would
like the
suggest.
dress code.
All right.
Yeah, but I think for the purpose of trying to satisfy Nick with the beginning of the school, if we can, whatever date y'all available next week, we can meet and go on, try to get it done. And if we need to have an emergency meeting or a special meeting before, when school starts, August 10th, 11th.
Teachers, in-service days are,
Starts on the
start on
4th.
August, the calendar.
When it-
I think it's the 4th.
To what?
Teachers start back on the 4th.
So we got, what, 2 weeks? If we can meet next week, we can get it and send it out to everybody.
Well, as Randy said on number 1, it's very strong, and it is listed as number 1, that the Caldwell School Board trust and expect employees to exercise personal responsibility and professionalism whenever they use their social media.
But-
And it is listed as number 1, and it is listed number 1 because it's very strong words.
Right, but if I go out and I want to have a beer, which I don't drink, but somebody else who do, and they post a photo with them holding up a beer can in their hand, is that unprofessional?
That could go 50-50.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So
Well,
if we have a look
Well,
at
and
that.
I'm not trying to get into people's,
Right.
I mean, I'm not
That's what I
trying
was
to say
thought.
you can't, I'm just relaying the things that I've had to deal with, you know, and that were excessive, and sometimes, you know, there have been people who work for us who think they're being funny, and then it comes across
It backfires.
very derogatory towards certain individuals, or could be identifiable because we're in a small community, and so they're talking about incidents that everybody can figure out what's being talked about. And so, and because we have no policy, it makes it very difficult to have set those expectations of, you have got to be professional, and you are respected as a teacher. And we're not saying your personal life can't be, but we don't need to see those things on social media. So, I don't know, it's touchy.
Did you get a chance to talk to John Dice about the lights? to
He
see
said
if-
that that's a whole new thing, and that's when he said, I'm gonna send you Washita's policy, and I looked at it, and then as I was walking out the door, I was headed to a ball game, I sent it to Barron, and I said, take a look at this and see what you think. I thought it was a little excessive, so I can definitely, we can meet if we want to, and I can bring both of those policies, and we tried to get it before the last meeting, and we could not copy and paste it, so Kaylee had to work some things around to get that. So, we definitely, I just know we need something, so.
So
And,
do we want to set it aside tonight,
Yeah.
and just kind of meet
Yeah.
again, and then look at it on an emergency meeting, so that we can
that's,
say,
yeah, we'll just have to set,
we may do a couple of them through.
we'll set that one aside. Okay, all right, let's go back to the agenda. Try to go in the order that we have here. Okay, Mike, you wanna, I think it's this computer one is ready, that first computer
Disaster
internet
recovery
use.
plan.
Mhm.
The
Yes.
disaster- We've, instead of tackling all of the IT concerns at one time, because there's so many, and it's sporadically through different policies, we focused on a couple at a time, and the first one was the disaster recovery plan.
That's
Um,
this big.
That's the big thick one with the Caldwell logo on top. This plan was put together, and all parishes have to do this. We have to have a plan in place in case there is a natural disaster, fire, flood, or anything to a building, or even ransomware or our electronics being hacked. We have to have a plan in place that says how are we going to ensure the safety, number one, of students and teachers. How are we going to reopen the lines of communication? And then how are we going to become operative again as a school district? So this plan kind of outlines that, who's in charge of what, who's in charge of each step, and which people, which positions are on the committee to make sure that we're following those steps to get us back in line.
Y'all keep a locked door on all of the, like the big pieces back here and stuff, you keep our door locked.
It's not necessarily locked, because like this one here, at the school board office, the financial server is in the room with the copy machines, and
So
there's
you
no
can't
other
lock
place to put it, and we can't lock it. And there's not enough adequate airflow in there to shut that server up anyway. So we have to have airflow, and it's just not feasible with the site that we're at, so. But they are password protected. Every server we have is locked up as securely as we can make it.
Maybe some of this was just forethought, so I mean, you don't have to go through each and
Yeah,
every
some of them are gonna be very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of them are gonna be very easy. I'll try to fly through those. So, are we good? Do we need to approve everyone? Okay. Okay, the kindergarten one is an early one, an easy one. The blue is new and the red is going out. And it basically just defines that a kindergartner is a child who turns 5 years of age on or before September 30th of the calendar year in which the school year begins. And it says they shall be given a valid and reliable readiness assessment. So that's an easy one.
Do we need to approve each one of these, or just approve them as a whole?
You can do them as a whole.
I think it could, if I can just mention, because y'all did talk about, I believe, when I came back, the social media one that you want to come back to yet. So I'd say
We're just gonna table
when
that.
you do your motion
Yeah.
to approve all,
Right,
with the exception of that one,
That's
and if
correct.
there's another one, just to shift the back.
So we need a motion to approve the kindergarten policy.
So motion.
Well, you can do.
You can do it all at the end,
Wait,
just say
no.
except
Oh,
for.
let's do each one of them at the end?
Yeah, well, you can do them as a group, but there's one you want to pull out to do later.
Oh,
All right, so school bus conduct, it's a pretty easy one. The forethought recommended that we take out all of those regulations from the actual policy and just put that, or of course, change the driver to operator, and then take out all those regulations, because at the beginning of it, it says that the regulations pertaining to pupils riding school bus shall be distributed to all students, and the responsibility of discipline riding buses shall rest with the principal, and they have to go over all these rules. And so rather than having them listed in the policy, if you'll look on the back, this is what our kids all sign when they ride the bus. So it's basically the same rules, it's just this list right here. And every bus driver has every student who rides this bus sign it, and they keep it on file and turn it in. And I can attest that as a principal, they would come in and constantly, you know, if they didn't get them back in, they had them signed, so they knew that this was going on. So that's an easy one.
okay.
All right. Next one is, so we're not gonna do the employee use of social media, the employee dress code. So as Baron said, this was a hot topic for us, and so you can see in here, we met with, we had a good showing of principals and directors who were all here to help us decide on this. But it was outdated. One of the biggest things, if you look at number 4, was that our old policy had you wear pantyhose if you had, if you wore dresses, skirts, and, or shorts, and so, you know. So we just look at it, but some things that really, because of trends that are going on right now, have become an issue with looking professional. So the big change for female employee dress, number one, we just said no athletic joggers. There are some that are dressy looking, and those are fine, but if they're made out of sweatpant material, you know, then that would be along the line of a jogging suit. Number three, with sundresses, we put or dresses with spaghetti straps are allowed, provided they're worn with a jacket. We put or cardigan, because not everybody will wear a jacket. But you may wear a little sweater cardigan. And just added bra straps must not be visible, so that they're not hanging out when they're, you know. Number four is where we took out the hose, and then we just defined walking shorts as Bermuda shorts. So those are the ones that come to your knees. They're not athletic shorts. They're not, you know, shorty shorts. They're Bermuda that go down to your knees. But we no longer would require them to wear pantyhose with that. Number five, shirts, blouses, we added or dresses which expose the midriff or cleavage are not allowed. Current trends right now, sundresses, I mean, it's just, you know, it's become an issue that we've had to have conversations about. And then number seven, we added this on designated jean days. Jeans with holes that expose the flesh or undergarments cannot be worn. And so, just, you know, sometimes it's very hard to buy jeans that don't have holes in them, but a lot of times they have material under it, and so as long as it's not inappropriate, and so we settled on no flesh and no undergarments. Number eight, yeah.
How do you not expose flesh if you have a hole in it?
I know, sometimes you have, men don't normally, I fight it with my boys because they wear the knees out in their pants all the time, but you'll have a pair of like designer jeans that have the hole in it, but it would have like material under it that covers up, so there's no actual skin.
It's a fake
Okay.
rip.
It's a what?
A fake rip.
A fake rip, okay, all right. So, but you get into you really, and these are legitimate issues that we have. With defining what hole, and you're like, but the hole doesn't actually expose any skin or undergarments, it's got a material under it. Sometimes you'll have the cute plaid under it or something, you know, so, yeah, real nitpicky. But, okay, and so 8 is, pierced jewelry may only be worn in the ears. And this models what we have for our students. We only allow our students to wear their piercings in the ears, and felt like it was only appropriate that we expect the same behavior out of our teachers. And then hair is to be kept neat, clean, and free from distraction.
Now, that's gonna run into our snack. You see the black kids the way they have.
This is employee.
Yeah, this is employees. Yeah, these are
Well,
employees.
some of them do the same thing.
Right. And because we don't allow our kids to have bright colored pink hair, it's not, we need to make sure our teachers follow the same is
I'm
the
talking
general
about the
consensus.
ponytail thing, like, you know, with the hair, you know, top of the head, do that.
And generally, we try to be respectful of
Right.
cultures and different trends, but as long as it's, I mean, purple and
Not
pink.
distracting.
And so
Right.
we settled on free from distraction, you know, so that, and it's an issue, it really is.
Now, me, I don't have this. I got this and you.
And then on the back, is the male employees, and so we added the same with the beards and hair must be neatly groomed and free from distractions. Number 4, we decided to take out socks are to be worn, so if they don't wear socks, it's okay. And then number 5, it said no jewelry worn in the ears, but we changed it to pierces jewelry may only be worn in the ears to model what that is, and that's, I mean, it's changing times and.
So Nick, if an adult wear a suit
Mhm.
to work, they don't have no socks on?
I don't want to check their feet.
Well, I mean, it's gonna be obvious, you don't be able to see it.
Yeah, I would think that they would wear socks.
Well, I mean,
They-
because the fashion is now
They
that
could
they're.
have no show
That's
socks.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying, they don't wear socks.
So it could be socks, but you just can't see them.
Or they could not wear socks,
The
and it is
no-show.
what it is.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, and I know that people wear like the hey-dos or the little
Yeah.
loafers and stuff with their pants, and I mean, none of my,
You
they're not
know,
city.
it's my opinion, if we have these rules, and something come up to be a problem, then we can turn back to this. Because most of the kids wear the, what you call, you know, the little, I wear them myself. The little short socks, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and hey, you don't walk around, you know, checking everybody. I see some of the stuff on TV, especially some of the commercials. And see, the kids gonna see some of this stuff too.
Well, and we're just trying to keep everything professional, but,
Right.
and so we figured while we were updating it, let's take, I mean, just like the pantyhose thing. Baron, if we wanna leave socks in there, we can.
No, I'm just asking,
Yeah.
because I'm just more tunnel vision when it comes to dressing. You know, there is either you dress right or you dress inappropriately. And I don't subscribe to anybody wearing a suit with no socks. That's
Right.
just not acceptable.
Right.
But if that's the policy we're gonna have, I don't have a problem with it. I just think,
Because I don't
It's
think
not
you're
that
gonna,
yeah.
many.
gonna, not students,
Yeah.
gonna dress like I don't think too many people, you know.
yeah, but I'm okay with
As
the
long as
socks.
you have your shoes on.
Matching socks are optional at my
Yeah.
house.
Oh, no.
I don't take my battles.
No, no, I'm always socks on.
I have a basket full of single socks.
Yeah.
There's no matches. And then we did the same thing with number 9 and the jean days, that if they have holes, they don't expose the flesh or undergarments cannot be seen. So, any more discussion on this one?
Because Ms. Wilder, you would never send Henry to school with a suit with no socks on. And he was growing up with.
Long time ago.
Right, but see, now the fashion has changed, so I guess you can adjust to it, and, you know, you just learn to deal with it. I just don't like it. But I-
Still wear socks though.
Yeah,
He will.
yeah, but I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I mean, they don't want to. Yeah.
Okay, if y'all are good with that, next one is maternity and adoptive leave. It's a pretty easy one. From everything that I'm seeing here, it basically extends the same rights and privileges to an adopted parent. So, not just childbirth, but the birth of a child, and then it changes from teachers to employees. So, in addition, employees are granted maternity leave.
This was state language, right?
This is state language. Yeah, we didn't adjust anything, they just, changed from teachers to employees and from childbirth to birth of a child. If that's good. Okay? All right, next one is retirement. This is one that, again, this was a recommendation. The old policy had retirement, as having to be approved by the board, but in accordance with Act 1, it just needs to be approved, notified me. So the superintendent shall accept any notice of retirement on behalf of the school board, and such retirement shall be considered effective for the end of the fiscal year, or as may be approved by the superintendent. Occasionally, they'll have to, do it in the middle of the year, but for the most part, it's at the end of the year. But once received by the superintendent or designee, the decision to retire may not be rescinded. And then, it takes out the employee shall be required to officially inform the school board, and then comes down and says no individual shall be discharged or forced to retire because of age. Okay. Okay, public conduct on school property.
This was an issue.
This was an issue, and we needed policy. So this is a new one. This is a new policy that Forethought put down, so apparently this has become an issue everywhere. And so, it basically just says you require any person attending a school event or school-related function on or off campus to conduct themselves with politeness, decorum, and proper sportsmanship. Any person entering the school campus property shall be required to conduct himself or herself in accordance with acceptable standards of conduct and show respect to the law and rights of others. Any person who disrupts the orderly educational process while on school campus or school board property may be restricted or banned from such property by the board. In addition, any person, including adult, who behaves in an unsportsmanlike manner during an athletic or co-curricular event may be ejected from the event the person is attending and/or be denied admission to other school events for up to a year. Should a person's conduct while on school property become so disruptive that it threatens the safety of an employee or student, school personnel shall be authorized to notify law enforcement personnel for assistance. The superintendent shall have the authority to review the circumstances and make the final decision regarding attendance of the individual at any school or school function.
This is one need to be publicized.
Yes, I agree.
I'm gonna tell you,
I agree.
I don't like coming to this gym,
Yeah.
basketball game. I'm too old to run and fight with people. And I'll say some things, basketball game.
I would be in favor of blowing this up and posting it in the gym. I'm
Yeah.
also in favor of
Right.
sending this home with every student athlete, you know, in their packet, that
Thank
they
you,
understand that their parents and guests, have got to, and it defines using vulgar, obscene language or gestures, possessing or being under the influence of alcohol or illegal substance, weapons, fighting or otherwise striking or threatening a person, failing to obey the instructions of a security officer or school district employee, interfering in any way with an athletic or co-curricular event, engaging in any activity which is disruptive or illegal. So, we good?
Yeah, Nick, and on this one, is, as long as this one is enforced across the board the same, because see, when you get off into this, this is where you can pick and choose. And I think where Act One takes it away from us, it gives it to one individual. That one individual, you just have to be the superintendent, so it's not towards you, it's just that these are the circumstances. If it's a friend of mine, I can do it one way, but if it's not a friend of mine, I can do it another way. So just want to make sure that the policy is just as consistent as, it's not going to be perfect, but just, you know, similarities and things, you know,
Absolutely.
kind of be,
Absolutely.
you know, about the same, because cursing at a game is almost like going to church and praying and saying amen. People are going to do that. I think when they become disruptive or become a threat to other people that's there, or they're interrupting this other person's, you know, flexibility to be at a game, I think at that point is where you look at. But if in general consensus, I mean, hell, I say that all the time. So I don't want
Well,
somebody
and
to.
I don't wanna go around trying to
Yeah.
find out, everybody, did you say a cuss word? You know, I mean, I'm not
Right.
looking, it would be,
Right.
it would be in something that's excessive, or you have, and if it's something like that and you have a complaint, I would deal with that as a conversation. I mean, I had to deal with some of this stuff, and a lot of them were conversations and notices that if this happens again, you will be banned. You know, so I mean, I'm not gonna jump right on and ban for language, you know, that, so I mean,
And
everything
I
is
think in
really.
some instances, you may have to start doing weapons check, you know, at different schools, rivalries,
Yeah,
you know, with the way things
Yeah.
are going now. So I think the board may have to change, you know, the way it allows individuals to.
yeah, well, this says possessing
Yeah,
a
but you
weapon.
gotta find it first.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, you know, we may have to start looking at stuff like that, you know, because, you know, most things happen after school. You know, like on the weekend, it carries over into the school. So, you know, that may be something we have to look at down the road, and maybe we choose a high school principal to see, you know, what they may be interested in looking at. You know, 'cause, I mean, it's kind of chaotic out there. Yeah, because we got, you know, it's Christian American, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that, you know, they,
I don't have a problem with the way this is worded, if you wanna take on the sole responsibility, but also, I don't know that the board needs to pass the buck on you for that sole responsibility. You know, that part of that responsibility is ours. The superintendent shall have the authority to review the circumstances and make the final decision regarding attendance of an individual at any school or school function. If you wanna accept that responsibility on your own as the sole person to do that, and y'all are all in favor of that, I'm fine with that.
Well, under Act One, she's sole responsible.
But not for this.
yeah, you can have an
Yes.
appeals process if you wanted to, but if typically, you know, if this, that's something that you need to consider. You know, so if you
I
want to,
mean, we could just add like the superintendent in conjunction with the school board, or I don't know how
Or
you wanna word it.
And if we make that
I mean,
change before you pass it, I would like for y'all to run it by John Guys to make sure that we're in compliance with that. Yeah, I don't know, I don't know. I know
I don't have
that
any problem with the way it's
that-
worded,
I
if
mean,
you wanna accept that
we
responsibility.
had a, you know, the big, and I told you, I texted you all about it. And I had to handle each one of those people in a different way based upon their part in it and whether they were an employee of mine or a parent. And so I did have to do this if you fell under an employee. And under an employee, I treated it as a personnel matter, and I handled it like that. As a parent, I did the letter that says this is unacceptable. If this happens again, you will be banned from this. And then, of course, the students, we took care of as student disciplinary issue there. So I do these things, and I do these things pretty regularly. That's just the one that was the most
You put a lot of thought into
That's
it.
right.
I just don't want
Yeah.
to be passing the buck on to you. Just-
And I don't mind if y'all want to table that, I don't mind. I just want to run it by, I would like for y'all to run it by him.
That's up to y'all. I mean, cause you got an appeal process, you know, on this anyways. You know, if the superintendent made a, decision, then what happens is, that individual board member could have it on the agenda. Now, the question is, because Act 1 is something that I've discouraged from day one, I don't know if it gives you that authority to.
I don't have, as far as any personnel that are involved in it, that's her responsibility.
Right.
But as far as individuals,
Right.
parents or somebody else from the community that's involved in it, I would think that would fall under our responsibility.
I agree with you.
You know, some situation for you and I. It's gonna have to be certain situations where maybe, it's gonna have to have basis some help. Somebody can be able to.
So as this is written, it doesn't specify
Okay.
I think we should
personnel,
give this
community.
full authority.
You know, it's kind of generic, isn't it? Like, it kind of covers a parent.
Like you said, they have a level of appeal,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. that's- so
She'll know if she needs
Leave
help.
it like it is.
And in that situation, when things were said, I come back, I mean, I'm always gonna be open to, I wanted to throw
Well, I
it
think
in.
in the instances that we had,
Yeah.
you communicated it very well. And you accepted input, and even when you arrived at a decision, you realized that there could be a different decision. So she did what she needed to do. But again, it's,
Always gonna be something.
She communicated.
Yeah.
I did, and
Yeah,
Yeah, things out
she
there.
tells us what goes on.
Well, just leave it like it is.
Okay.
Next.
Alright, industrial tax exemptions.
Did y'all evaluate the cookies out?
This is a new policy. David said it was good. So,
it's a state recommendation.
it is,
Yeah.
yes.
All days.
If those people would give us our money, we would all be happy with it.
That's right, that's right. Any discussion on this? If I
And I'm
can-
sure Scott said he talked to him last week.
All right, holidays, they added in, the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November in even numbered years where the parish governing body has established a polling place at a public school shall also be designated as a holiday.
I think everything else maybe was about the same. Other than dangerous weapons.
Employment of personnel and dangerous weapons, it's pretty easy. I think there was on page 2, so page 1 is basically all personnel, and then page 2 is basically bus operators. They have a whole different set of
I
rules
think
to
I have a
follow.
question on it. Let me go back to
Okay.
the second.
But the only change that was made is that the school board shall notify such bus operator of the
Yes.
route vacancy by mail to his or her residence. I talked with John Geis about this, and he said it could be hand delivered
Right.
to them as well. Because sometimes the mail gets there and sometimes it doesn't, and you wanna make sure, that it is. But basically, it's that it's gotta be in writing. It can't be any discussion, everything's gotta be in writing.
That's by the transportation supervisor.
No, transportation supervisor. Did you have a question, Mr. Keating?
I think it's good.
Okay, all right. Dangerous weapons, moved the language from the first paragraph down the page, and then defined firearm. as a pistol, revolver, rifle, shotgun, machine gun, submachine gun, black powder weapon, or assault rifle that is designed to fire or is capable of firing fixed cartridge ammunition, or from which a shot or projectile is discharged by an explosive. So, there's got to be a reason why that needed to be defined. So, and that's it. And that's not all of them. That's just what we thought we could handle in one meeting, so.
Well, I make a motion that we accept, all the, discussed policies excluding, employee dress code, which we'll table that, and,
The social media.
Social media.
Not the rest.
yeah, social media,
Okay.
okay. And, Nick, you can just, whatever date next week, is it, you're available?
Okay.
You just, let us know, and we'll meet. And if-
Okay.
if you
All in
want-
favor?
All right.
Okay, now we move on to F.
Yes.
The approve the job description revision for the Title I/2 instructional coordinator job description for personnel.
So I'll let Ms. Wiley do most of the talking on this. I'll preface it with this. This Title I and II instructional coordinator has been jumbled around so much since the beginning. It was at one time, who was the first one?
The first one was Jeff.
Jeff.
Ms. Todd.
Right. Who, pardon?
Was it
Yeah,
Jeff
at
or
one
Al?
point. At one point, it was part of a director, and then it got moved from that to,
What happened was last year,
Mhm.
that's when it really got changed, when we were trying to put you have to have like, more qualifications, you know, like administrators and whatever.
yeah.
But it got put, Marcia I wanted her there, and accommodate employees, but and we dropped
just try to
all
get it
the,
back
all
to
the
original.
hoopla to it.
Yeah.
That
So
makes
she could,
sense.
it was satisfied that.
Mhm.
Of course, she's the only one in the district that has certification as a counselor. We couldn't do that through the, so I just wanna put it back where it was to have somebody with administrative and get that money back there. Because right now we have a person that's has been a principal and assistant principal. She have all this qualifications, but she's only making a little amount of money, and I don't wanna lose her because when I retire, you know, we're gonna have to have somebody in place because it's a lot of
This
the
come out,
program.
this come out of Title I fund?
All
federal
this
fund,
coming out, it's not coming from,
And you just moved it back to the original
just
position?
put it back where it was. And, just put it back with the qualifications, in other words.
I make a motion, we do that.
So the only changes will be to the job description in yellow. So moving it from a coordinator to a supervisor, requiring the master's degree with certification in administration or supervision or the ed leadership. And then at the bottom, it just says the administrative supplement is paid for with title funds. So,
Yeah, so that may be something we need to look at, Nick, down the road. People that have titles way beyond what the job description actually is, of the position. You know, cause she's a supervisor, right?
She will
but
be
you're,
now.
that's what
Right.
you're.
That's what I'm
We're
saying.
trying to do that because she had
So
qualifications.
she was doing coordinator's work
Mhm.
based on the title.
She doing it all of it. Yeah, she's doing supervisor's work. She works with the other two supervisors in their job, because Nikki pays half her salary and I pay the other half. And she worked with those supervisors, those directors.
And
And
this is strictly, Title I fund.
this is coming from Title I, not coming from the general fund.
Did you
So
get
she'll-
that?
We have a motion to approve that?
Two
She'll be
to
a
ten.
Title I
I got a
coordinator.
motion from
Oh.
Ms. McKee.
The supervisor, right?
Yeah.
Okay, supervisor, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're to district leaders update, I believe.
We have, Michael and Miss Wiley, because everybody else is on vacation, because today is our Friday, so everybody went out of town.
Yes.
Yeah. So Michael, you wanna give an update?
IT stuff, we're still working on plugging the holes in all of the new equipment we have. We're just tweaking a few things. I actually have an engineer coming this week to help me finalize some of the outlying buildings that we've been waiting on to get them up. And the stuff that's running right now is exceeding our expectations. It has been great. Easy to work with, easy to manage, all of it's online, so it's great.
Miss Wiley, you got anything you wanna share?
I'm working on the Caldwell, district-wide PD, agenda book for this school year. And everybody kind of put your stuff in there. We have a presenter that's coming on that Friday of the parish-wide, employees for the whole school community listens, and he'll be here, and we're looking forward to that. And then, of course, the teachers will, just only certified people will come on that Thursday. And, but on Friday, parish-wide, everybody, and we're inviting you all to come to it. And that way you get some of your hours in.
Parish will be Friday.
Oh,
I think it's the 5th.
It's the 5th.
Yeah.
It's the fifth, and don't forget they'll get, all the people, personnel will be fed at
yes.
Yeah.
First
at the
Baptist
First
Church.
Baptist Church, all the,
Right.
local churches come together and feed everyone.
And
So,
y'all invited.
That's right, that's right. Thank you.
Now, Jeff, we ready for, your report?
Report? Well, no, I don't have a report. The only thing I have is, it's unfortunate I'm here because, Mr. Charles passed away. But I was gonna let y'all know that, Charles Smith,
Bishop can't tell him when you do what.
and I worked for the school board about 27 years ago. That's the main superintendent.
Okay.
And I just,
Jeff.
tomorrow is my last day with Holy Water, which I was quitting. I didn't give them notice.
Oh, goodness.
So, but I mean, I'm going to do something else anyway. But I was gonna let y'all know I'd be interested if y'all wanna hire another, super maintenance superintendent.
And we haven't discussed that.
And
Yeah, we haven't discussed it yet because of course we're trying to get through, that we're in a transition with directors. And so we've got to kind of line all those things out. And if we do open it up, we'll, advertise it and put it out there and so welcome to.
And your name is Jeff White.
yes, ma'am.
You don't look the same.
Then wait, lost
You got
that.
certified and fixing air conditioning.
Yeah, he's
Yes,
record
yes, ma'am. I still got my state electrical license and my state HVAC license.
Good deal, good deal.
So-
Thank you for coming.
But anyway, well, everybody in here knows I've done my work for one of them.
I wouldn't know who you were, but you told me I said, "Ooh,
But anyway, so y'all gonna be running in the paper or?
We will put it,
Okay.
we'll advertise it, if we decide to open it up. We haven't even discussed it.
Okay.
We were just trying to get through this week, and try to get everything
Well-
lined out. So we will definitely
All
put
right,
it out
well, I
there
was
if we
just
decide to
gonna-
do that.
I was
Thank
gonna
you.
let y'all know.
Thank
It's
you.
good to see you, Jeff.
All right, see y'all.
all right, bye-bye."
All right, so,
Superintendent report.
okay, well, sad day for us losing Charles.
It's terrible.
It's terrible, terrible. And, so certainly, keep Merrick and his mom in our prayers. This is Merrick's, third death to deal with just in her tenure with us since I've known her. And of course, his mother, this was the third of her 4 children to die. And so it's been super sad. As a district, he's gonna be irreplaceable. I know that the most recent, of course, there's so much that Charles did behind the scenes as far as keeping everything up and running and, just trying to get that, but one of the big projects that I wanted to talk with y'all about, Charles was instrumental in, and that's our work at the stadium. And I'm not sure if y'all had driven by and seen what was going on, and I haven't had an opportunity, but, our local banks are so generous, and all 3 of the banks have committed to donating a considerable amount of money to refurbish the stadium and the press box. We know that times are tough, and we need a new football field. We need all of the new things, but the idea of passing a bond issue is just not feasible right now. And so it began with a discussion with Richard Meredith from Homeland Bank, where they came to us and said that Homeland was going to buy a scoreboard for us. And so a brand new scoreboard with the clocks. And then we began talking with, actually Carmen stood in for Gary, and Steve came and met with us, and we all kind of hashed out what could we do in the meantime to really improve the appearance of the football stadium. And the reason for that is, we have all of our high school football games there, and so you've got football players, band, cheer, dance, and everyone who comes for those things. Junior high plays all their games there. The elementary plays all of their games there. We have graduation, we have Special Olympics, and so it is kind of a hubbub where all of our schools use it. The pre-K and Head Start use that for their Halloween trail. And so it is, and so with that, they're going to remodel the press box because it currently does not have any insulation in it, so everything in it melts. And so our sound system, and Michael can attest to that, our sound system doesn't work all the time because you can't find all the parts to it because you can't properly lock it and people get in there and steal the things. We have the hatch on the top where the coaches go up, and it leaks water, and so all of the water has come in and ruined that. And so we're gonna patch all of that, not patch, we're gonna fix all that, and we're gonna heat and air all of that, divide all of this cubicles so you don't have to go up top anymore. You can put your people in different rooms. So you've got the visiting teams and the home teams and the clock referees and then the announcer and scorekeepers in different bays. We can keep all of our sound system things there. Brand new scoreboard. We've got, we're gonna have it all pressure washed, and so it will not be black anymore. It's going to look like new concrete. We're gonna put in bird netting, which is not cheap, because if you've ever been there and seen those mud birds, and they're protected, you can't get rid of them. And so as soon as they're done with their season here, we're going to have this professional company come in and put the bird netting up there that's going to keep them from coming back. And so then you won't have all the, yeah, it's a mess. And it's a mess every year at graduation. And last year, James Wells was out there, pushing it, and as soon as he pushed some off, they're plopping out beside him. I mean, it's a mess. So having all that done so that it will look nice, Richard has also contacted those people who have memorial awards with us that we give out every year, and we're going to put up a big sign because those families have all contributed money as well as a Forever Spartan and memorialize the people who we give the awards for every year. And so that was another way to generate funds. And then we're also putting in a brand new sound system and speakers so that it doesn't blare out the people in the right under that, and then you can still hear it on the field. So it's a pretty massive undertaking. And the 2 weeks before Charles passed, we had that equipment there, and he was putting in the piping to run all the electrical. He was putting all of the breaker boxes in one location. Every breaker box was in a different place, and you couldn't get to it if you didn't have a key. And so there were plenty of times that we were running around trying to find out where's the breaker box to turn the light on, where's the one for the sound, and where's the one for the scoreboard. And so he was running everything so it could be in one central location. And that's where he was headed Friday. He stopped by Central to check on some gas things when he passed. So it has left a huge hole for us to, he's irreplaceable and all that he was able to do and but we will.
He's very smart.
We will pick it up. Mr. Farr and Mr. Wells and the rest of the team have come together and tried to put together, a plan of action for how are we gonna pick up and what are we gonna do in his absence. And then after they get through that, then we'll sit down and decide what we wanna do moving forward about opening that position up.
Oh, did you want to tell us about the cleaning service or not?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. So we have a hard time now. We can't find custodians, and we're down to one custodian at the high school, and there's typically 4. And I think we still are down a custodian at the pre-K as well. But at the high school, because there are 4 positions, and we can't get we can't even get subs to come in. Nobody wants to work. So we put out some bids, and we're going to hire, I believe it's FMS is the one who's going to come in as a cleaning service, and we will have one custodian who's there during the day to take care of the needs that arise during the day, but then this custodial service will come in every night and with a 5-man crew and clean the entire building. And so with a very detailed list of what they're going to do, and I'm super excited about
Very,
that.
very much needed. We got
is.
teachers and principals and everybody moving furniture and around and from room to room, and that's really not in their job description.
I mean, we have principals cleaning bathrooms, you know, and teachers taking out their own trash and bagging up. I mean, it's really been difficult. And in the past, it's been a way for us to provide a job for somebody in our community, and we just cannot find anybody to take it. So we're going to do that with the high school because the money was justified, 3 positions to cover the amount of the contract, so.
I sure hope it works out. Did we finish all our projects that, our illustrious Mr. Ribs was over? Did you finish all your projects?
I don't believe I was over all of them, but I guess we have, except for maybe paving. Have
We paved
we
it.
finished all the paving we're gonna do? So we're
Did we
not
spend
gonna
all
do
our money, or did we have money
We
left?
have not. We're waiting for those invoices to come out so that we can look to see how much we have left. And the plan was for us to revisit when we know how much money we have left, whether or not we want to tackle the tennis courts. And I'm still just disappointed in the prospects of the tennis courts.
Well, it's just the slow
Is
house.
any money
There-
left? We need to put a new roof on that tall one building, it leaks every time.
I think that's on Jeff's maintenance list.
Good.
Yeah.
What about that ceiling down there at,
Kelly,
at
Kelly,
Caldwell?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Did you get to do anything about that?
Now, it's on the to-do if we had money left over, so we were just waiting to see how much all
I
this
noticed
actually
that they
came
have a
back
new shed at Columbia Elementary. Why is it crooked?
to allow for the water runoff.
He said crooked.
It has a slope,
It's crooked.
it
Oh,
does,
oh.
it has a slope.
On a good note, I would like to say I talked to our band director this past weekend and asked him how things were going, you know, and he said that we had 40 in the junior high.
Good.
Wow.
So that's seeding into the high school. If half of them seed into the high school.
Now, Miss McCann's got 2.
I do.
And, so that's a lot better than what
That's
we've
a lot
had
better.
before. And
You know what?
he's really been working at it,
Yeah.
and I guess he's doing junior high and high school.
Yes, we have adjusted his schedule so that he can accommodate both the junior high and the high school. We took away some classes that he was teaching and assigned those elsewhere so he could do both. While the numbers are, now there may come a time when he can't do all. If it grows, that's great, you know, but right now, he said he could do it if we made it work,
And they're
so.
testing next week for 5th graders, I mean 6th graders coming
Give him
up.
that, yeah.
I think that's really good, you know. we got
Oh, I'm
that many-
excited.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
I love band.
I know. That's all I have.
Anybody have anything else? Then
Oh, I
we have
do.
a motion.
Do we have a visiting teacher, like if my child is injured and can't attend school, do we have a visiting teacher? Or how do we handle that now?
Homebound?
Do they have to go through a procedure? Okay.
Rebecca Meredith handles the homebound.
Okay, I thought so. I thought she would. Okay. Okay.
And we did put out today, we are gonna offer the virtual, instruction program again, but it is a very limited, for if you have medical condition that the doctor says you can't. But, we looked at the numbers last year, and at one point we had 32 students. And when I asked David for the math on that, it would have been about a $230,000 cut if we had not had those virtual students. So, as much as we hate to do that and to carry that burden, we know that there are some students who really could not attend our schools if we did not offer it. So we put those applications out again today, and they're due by July the 29th, so.
What about the truancy? Did you have your meeting about that getting them done, Mr. Glass?
No, ma'am, but the superintendent and I have talked about it. We've looked at some, I don't know if it's creative, Ms. McKee, or not. And I guess, you know, for the sake of not, you know, really pointing the blame at specific individuals or specific job titles, I think, you know, everybody is pretty much doing what they can, but they're limited to what they can is. And that limit is creating, you know, sense of, I guess, backlog. But what I was gonna tell you, Nikki, is that maybe since the high school principal's there, we can kind of sit down with her and kind of see how she wanna deal with it. Because I guess the problem happens when, if it's already 10 or 15 days out and you get them, you're kinda too late, but if you try to get them when you're supposed to get them, that's gonna create a,
Well, we had this
Big issue.
conversation at the staff meeting the other day, and I will tell you that the junior high, Ms. Hilston and Ms. Watts went to a session at the teacher leader conference on truancy, and they came back and have created a truancy task force at the junior high with, Mr. Coach LaFoon is going to head that up, and then Ms. May, the secretary, because she has access to the everyday records. And Ms. Knockin, who is our choir teacher, she's off on first period, and so she's in the office at that time. And so between the three of them, we're gonna try to be very proactive this year with truancy at the junior high. And so she shared all that with the leaders Tuesday at our staff meeting. And so as a result of that, Mr. Simmons and Ms. Wells and the new principal and assistant principal at the high school and Mr. Amos have come together with a plan to address truancy at all ages, and then they're gonna reinstitute the freshman academy, so that there are people who are dedicated to checking attendance and discipline and grades, and then have to set up a mentor program with our freshmen, because that's really where it hits the worst. Angela then too has talked about with their elementary teachers and the devastation that comes from your kids in kindergarten and those lower grades who don't come to school in their reading and not being able to. And so being more proactive with parents and making those connections. I posted something yesterday on our Facebook page. I'm not sure if you saw that, but it's a video clip that Angela got at one of her conferences about the importance of making sure your kids are at school, because every time your kid is not in school, we're not able to teach them to read. We're not able to teach them, and they're falling behind. So we're going to be very intentional, because like Baron said, and then we can't control what happens at the end and be reactive. And a lot of times we're frustrated because nothing happens. So we can't control that. We can be frustrated, but let's do what we can control. And let's be very proactive and very intentional on the front end of trying to make, and not make kids come to school, but make the parents understand why we need them at school. We're trying to help your kids learn to read, and if she's not here, I can't help her.
Truancy is a major problem throughout this state. Got to admit, law enforcement will have to be coming in somewhere. Mama, and you just got to be honest. You can talk to the kids and mom, but unless she got something that's, and mostly it is the mom involved. Unless there's some kind of legal ramification. Caldwell Parish, this past week, three mothers had 3 kids, it's a total of 349 days out of school.
It is an issue. It is an issue.
Sometimes, I'm old fashioned, sometimes we can be too good to people. Sometimes you have to put it up, I'm serious.
We're just not in a place where we can impose consequences on parents, and so, and that's a very frustrating place for us, and I know Barron is a part of that, too. So we can't control, so what can we control? And we can control and not let them get into that problem early on. So it's not gonna fix everything, but maybe we'll fix some, and we'll catch more kids. So we're just gonna be intentional.
Anybody want a motion to adjourn?
Well, I'll make a motion.